Imagine a football club forged in the factories of industrial England, a team that rose from the ashes of tragedy to become the most decorated and feared force in world football. This is the story of Manchester United, a saga of glory, heartbreak, reinvention and dominance. But this isn't just about trophies. This is about what it means to belong to something bigger. This is the entire history of Manchester United. Manchester United began not with global fame, but with humble roots. Formed in 1878 as Newton Heath Lancashire and Yorkshire Football Club, it was a team for railway workers of the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Depot. The club wore green and gold, colours that still hold symbolic power among fans today. But by 1902, the club was drowning in debt and on the brink of collapse. That's when local brewer John Henry Davies stepped in, invested £500, which is equivalent to £60,000 today, and renamed the club Manchester United, adopting the red and white that would become globally recognised. The club quickly found success, winning its first league title in 1908 and the FA Cup in 1909. Manchester United moved to Old Trafford in 1910. However, World War I disrupted English football and the club's finances again suffered. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, United bounced between the first and second divisions, with limited achievements. They were relegated in 1922 and again in 1931. The 1930s were particularly difficult, with attendance falling and bankruptcy once more looming. In 1931, James W. Gibson, a local businessman, rescued the club by investing £30,000. His support was pivotal in stabilising Manchester United through the Great Depression and into the war years. During World War II, Old Trafford was bombed heavily in the Manchester Blitz in 1941. The post-war rebuild would eventually pave the way for Matt Busby's revolutionary tenure, an era which boasted youth, loomed tragedy and celebrated triumphs. When World War II ended, United appointed Matt Busby in 1945, a visionary who demanded unprecedented control over team decisions. He focused on youth, training and long-term strategy. By the early 1950s, his project was bearing fruit. The Busby Babes, a team of prodigiously talented young players like Duncan Edwards, Roger Byrne and Tommy Taylor, took English football by storm, winning league titles in 1952, 1956 and 1957. But tragedy struck on February 6, 1958. Returning from a European Cup match in Belgrade, United's plane crashed during a refuelling stop in Munich. 23 people died, including 8 United players and 3 staff members. Busby was seriously injured. Duncan Edwards, a once-in-a-generation talent, died at age 21. Against all odds, Busby returned to rebuild. He signed Dennis Law, nurtured Bobby Charlton, and discovered George Best, a flamboyant genius who lit up 1960s football. In 1968, Manchester United became the first English club to win the European Cup, defeating Benfica 4-1 at Wembley. The trio of Law, Charlton and Best formed the legendary Holy Trinity. Bobby Charlton, a survivor of the Munich disaster, became the embodiment of Manchester United's spirit, resilient, composed and immensely talented. With a thunderous shot and tactical intelligence, Charlton played over 750 games for the club and scored 249 goals, a record that stood for decades. He was central to England's 1966 World Cup win and United's European triumph in 1968, lifting the trophy as captain. George Best, meanwhile, brought artistry and rebellion. Nicknamed the fifth Beatle for his looks and celebrity appeal, Best dazzled with dribbling, balance and an uncanny ability to glide past defenders. In 1968, he was awarded the Ballon d'Or. His off-field lifestyle was as notorious as his brilliance, but on the pitch, he was a generational talent who defined an era. Together, Charlton and Best weren't just stars. They became symbols of recovery, charisma and excellence at Old Trafford. After Busby's retirement, United drifted. Managers came and went, with Frank O'Farrell, Tommy Docherty and Dave Sexton unable to replicate past glories. The club was relegated in 1974, despite having legends like George Best and Dennis Law on the books. United returned to the First Division in 1975 and won the FA Cup in 1977, but inconsistency plagued them. The 1980s were marked by false starts. Ron Atkinson brought some excitement and signed Brian Robson, but couldn't break Liverpool's dominance. United were a sleeping giant, rich in history, poor in silverware. In November 1986, a fiery Scot named Alex Ferguson took the reins. At first he struggled. By 1990, fans were calling for his sacking. But a crucial FA Cup third-round win against Nottingham Forest saved his job. United went on to win the FA Cup and momentum began to shift. In 1992-93, powered by the arrival of Eric Cantona, United won their first league title in 26 years. This marked the beginning of an empire. Ferguson didn't just build a team, he built an institution. He promoted youth, most famously the class of '92, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville, Nicky Butt. He also signed players like Roy Keane and Peter Schmeichel, who embodied grit and leadership. The apex came in 1998-99, when United won the historic treble: Premier League, FA Cup and Champions League. The Champions League final against Bayern Munich remains one of football's greatest turnarounds. Played on May 26, 1999, at Camp Nou in Barcelona, it remains one of football's most dramatic matches. United faced Bayern Munich. Within 6 minutes, Bayern were ahead via a Mario Basler free kick. United were without captain Roy Keane and Paul Scholes due to suspension, and for most of the match, they struggled to gain control. But Ferguson's men were relentless. The substitutes Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer changed the game. In the 91st minute, Beckham's corner found Sheringham, who turned it in, 1-1. Another corner just a minute later, again Beckham, flicked on by Sheringham, and Solskjaer stabbed it into the roof of the net, 2-1. Pandemonium! Bayern players collapsed to the ground in disbelief. United had done it. That too in stoppage time. This marked one of the greatest seasons in football history. Manchester United became the first English team to win the treble, a feat that many considered to be near impossible, a feat that has only been repeated once since. Even after the treble, Ferguson kept evolving. He signed Ruud van Nistelrooy and brought in Cristiano Ronaldo in 2003 and Wayne Rooney in 2004. Ronaldo, who came in as a teenager, quickly evolved into one of the most electrifying players of his generation. His pace, flair and unshakable confidence made him a fan favourite and a nightmare for defenders. In the 2007-08 season, he scored 42 goals in all competitions, helping United secure both the Premier League and Champions League titles. Ronaldo won his first Ballon d'Or that year, cementing his status as a global football icon. Though he left for Real Madrid in 2009, his legacy at United was already immortal. In 2007-2009, United won 3 consecutive league titles and claimed the 2008 Champions League, defeating Chelsea on penalties. Ferguson adapted his tactics and squads to changing times. Whether with possession-based midfielders like Michael Carrick or explosive wide players like Ronaldo and Nani, he built systems that worked. By the time he retired in 2013, Ferguson had won 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups and 2 Champions League trophies. His final season saw United clinch their 20th league title, finishing 11 points ahead of Manchester City. Ferguson's retirement marked the end of an era, and his departure left a vacuum that the club would struggle to fill for years. The post-Ferguson era has been one of the biggest shifts in power English football has ever seen. David Moyes, Ferguson's hand-picked successor, lasted less than a season. Despite winning the Community Shield, the team failed to qualify for the Champions League. After Moyes came Louis van Gaal, whose possession-heavy style was uninspiring. While he did win the FA Cup in 2016, he was dismissed days later. Jose Mourinho followed, a serial winner and one of football's most intriguing personalities. In 2016-17, he delivered the EFL Cup and the Europa League, completing the club's collection of major trophies and ensuring Champions League qualification. It was the most successful post-Ferguson season at that point, but internal friction, defensive tactics, and his tendency to clash with players made for an unsustainable tenure. He was sacked in December 2018. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a club legend, took over in late 2018. His tenure was defined by emotional highs, but tactical lows. Despite reaching multiple semi-finals and a Europa League final in 2021, he failed to secure a trophy. The club's transfer policy became chaotic. Between 2013 and 2021, United spent over £1.1 billion on players, but most acquisitions, like Di Maria, Lukaku and Sanchez, failed to deliver. The club often seemed more like a commercial brand than a football institution, frustrating fans. In 2022, Erik ten Hag, formerly of Ajax, took charge. Known for discipline, tactical structure and youth development, Ten Hag was seen as a manager who could finally bring identity back to United. In his first season, he led the club to win the Carabao Cup, United's first silverware since 2017, and secured a top 4 league finish. However, following a disappointing season and a string of poor results, Ten Hag was sacked in October 2024. He was succeeded by Portuguese manager Ruben Amorim, who is currently at the helm of the club. bringing fresh tactical ideas and a focus on modern, progressive football. Amarim's arrival marks another bold step in Manchester United's ongoing evolution, as the club looks to finally establish consistency and success in the post-Ferguson era. What keeps this club alive is more than money, managers or silverware. It's the fans singing "Glory, Glory Man United" in Bangkok, Boston and Bangalore. It's the pride of walking out at Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams. It's the memory of Busby, the legacy of Ferguson and the heartbreak of Munich. It's resilience, passion and determination. From the brink of extinction in 1902 to the treble in 1999. Manchester United is not just a club, it is a myth, a movement, a mirror of football's evolution. So that's the story of Manchester United. From Newton Heath to Old Trafford, from Munich to Moscow, from Busby to Ferguson to Amarim. A club forged in adversity, shaped by legends and driven by millions of fans across the world. Whether you love them or hate them, there is no denying it. Manchester United's story is football history. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments what your favourite United moment of all time is. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.